I was born Bruna Teresa Bottinelli on July 7th, 1917. I was born in the town called West Hoboken, now known as Union City. Now, when I was 9, I lost my brother, and that's when my mother and dad decided they were going to move out of the neighborhood. So we moved to North Bergen. My brother was 19. My brother was a sculptor and did statuary. And of course, when they would bring in the gesso and the different things that had to be stirred up in water, because he was the youngest in the bunch and the strongest, they would put it on his shoulder, he'd open up the bag and dump it into this trough. Well, he breathed all this in, and his lungs were coated, and he died. When we got up to living in North Bergen, we used to walk every Saturday night, and we used to look at all the stores. So we're coming past this art store, and my mother's looking at the windows, both sides of this place, and she says, "I'm going to go in here for a minute. Do you want to come with me?" And I said, "Sure." She got me a box of paints. I still have it. And she got me canvas. And she said, "You don't know whether or not you have talent unless you try." And so I did it, whenever I feel like I pick up a canvas and I do it. When I moved up to North Bergen, the whole west side of the street was intermarried Irish people for more than half the block. The only one of us that were not accepted was my family, because we were Italian, the family up on the corner because they were Jewish, and that one door away from me, the family that was Japanese. The family that was Japanese had 3 girls, Chio, Hannah, and Mio. Chio was 1 year younger than me, Hannah 2 or 3 years younger than Chio, and Mio was a baby. Of course, when they would call me Bruna, the baby couldn't pronounce my name. The best she could do was Bunnie, Bunnie. She couldn't do better than that. The name stuck, and I've been carrying it around for over 90 years. My godmother left a son over in Italy whose name was Bruno. The other she brought here. She didn't want to forget him. She wanted me to be named after him. My mother didn't want that because it was not an American name. My sister was born in Italy. She had an American name, Emily. My brother was born in Germany. He had an American name, Charles. I was born in America. I didn't have an American name. But anyway, my mom finally gave in, and after 7 months I was baptized, but I was never called that because Mio took care of that. She called me Bunnie. At school, the elocution teacher's name was Miss Giles. She formed the Giles Laboratory Players. The Giles Players went on for quite a while, maybe 4 or 5 years after we graduated, but then, things became, there was a war, there was people moving, we had to just give it up. The kids that were in there, the Italian club, decided to start a club of their own. I was the director, and we used to put on Italian plays because we lived in an Italian community, and the school was in an Italian community in Union City. The Italian club decided to give a show at the Cooperative Hall, and instead of paying an entrance fee, we put cups up on the stage, and people came and made donations, and that money went to the families that were really suffering because of the Depression. At the end of the show, this gentleman came up and congratulated me and said, "You speak a beautiful Italian for an Armenian." And I said to him, "I am Italian, I am not Armenian." Well, this is the boy I married. He would show up, take me swimming up at Palisades Park, take me to the hikes with all the people that were going on hikes, and we became a couple, so to speak. Anyway, I got out of school. I graduated with honors. After that, I had to go to work because my people could not afford sending me to school. I was up at the corner working for an embroidery company who were friends of ours, and this gentleman from New York came in and asked if I would like to work for him. I took the job, and it was in the Hanover Bank building across the street from Macy's. In the meantime, I was keeping company with the man I eventually married. And in the afternoon, I'd look out of the window when it was time for me to go home, and he would be waiting for me down at the telegraph pole across the street. It so happened that in the time that I was working for the people in New York, I also took a job in Jersey. I worked for a dry cleaning company, and right next door to them was a dance studio, so I used to go from work into the dance studio. I danced all my life, ballroom, tap, acrobatic, toe tap. I mean, it was dance. Dance was part of my life. I never thought of love. I never thought of marriage. I only thought of stage and acting. But the thing is, one day when we were both alone, he said to me, "Do you think people can get married on $7,000? I said, "What, are you kidding?" I said, "You can go to Europe and back and everything else on $7,000. Don't forget, I'm talking depression. That's when bread was a nickel a loaf, not $2 a loaf. And then he said, "Well, I think we should set a date." And that was his proposal. We were engaged at Thanksgiving, and we got married in May. And that was back in 41. We were married for a year. The second year I became pregnant. And in December, when I was expecting my baby, they drafted him. He went down to the draft board and he said, "Please, in a couple of weeks, my wife is going to have my first baby. Can I stay home just to see the child?" And they granted him that. They let him stay home. And my son was born on December 26th, and in January, my husband was drafted. My husband landed there 1 or 2 days after D-Day. After 15 months, he came home for the weekend, and he left me pregnant. He had been wounded and had been shipped to a hospital in England, but anyway, he found out that I was pregnant. The day my mother delivered my daughter, I got the Purple Heart. It was delivered to me because they didn't give it to him. They sent it home to me. And when I wrote to him, he said, "I think you deserved it more than I did." Comes New Year's Eve, and they are taken from the hospital to go back to get into the war. He hit Germany. He hit England. He hit the tip of Italy. He was at the bridge at Remagen, and after that he came home. He finally got home and wouldn't come to bed, couldn't sleep in bed, slept on the floor, didn't want to eat, was afraid of noises, and my mother would talk to him under our apple tree, and she put his mind at ease so that things would start to work for him. In the meantime, because I had lost my only brother, I sat there and I thought, what would I do if I lost one of my 2 kids? I wanted another baby. My husband, with the war always in his background, he figured, no more children, no more children. Well, 7 years, and I was still begging, and he finally said, "Okay, 1 week, I'll give you 1 week, and then you promise me that you'll never, ever bother me again." And I said that was a deal. I became pregnant, and Mark was born. Mark was born many years after the last one. The last one was born in 42. Mark was born in 51. Okay. About 2 years later, I find out that I'm pregnant again, and I didn't tell my husband until he saw that I was pregnant. So after 7 weeks, he looked at me and he said, "Take my son." He said, "No." And I said, "Yes." And he ran down and he told my mother, and she ran upstairs and she said, "No." And I said, "Yes." So I had a boy and a girl, then a lapse, and then a boy and a girl. But they were a pleasure to raise. They were all good kids in school. They all did well, made us proud. We had no gripe with them. They were good. we always came to the shore. So one day we decided that we'd go beyond where we usually went because we wanted to come back to see Long Beach Island. We were interested in Long Beach Island from way back. When we got down here, this house was for sale. We bought it, and we lived together for 10 years, and then he died. The doctor discovered that he had cancer. Well, things went from bad to worse, and he wound up in the hospital in New York. And he died on Labor Day back in '89, and that was it. That was the end of it. It was 8:45 the night before he died, and he put his arm up like this, and the man in the bed next to him said, "He's trying to get your attention. He wants you to go over and talk to us." So I put my head under his hand. I put my head under his hand, and I put my face up against his, and he gave me a kiss, and then he waited a few minutes, and he kissed me again, and then he tightened the grip on his hand. And I kissed him, and I said, "Just take it easy." And I pulled myself out away from under him. So when the nurse came in at 4 o'clock in the morning, she said, "God, open up your hands. You're going to get a new spirit tonight." And sure enough, just after 1, he died, and that was Labor Day. He gets all through the war, manages to get home, manages to get his head on straight again, and then he had to have that kind of a death. Gad. Ugh. Cried a year for him. I kept praying, give me strength. I mean, this is it. I have to change my life. That was it. I really loved living down here, and I got used to living alone because I had friends and I had connections. I walked 4 miles every morning, rain or shine. I square danced 4 nights a week and every other weekend. So I managed to learn to live that kind of life where I wasn't alone. In AARP, when we have a meeting, we try to have some sort of entertainment, a speaker, someone who plays an instrument, anything like that. Well, this woman her name is Rita. She did plays, and she did sort of things like that, She had a group of us acting, really, really going. Well, it got to a point where no matter what was going on, I would have the lead. She would always make me do the lead. So anyway, at the very end, she decided that she was going to go out with a bang. And so the final number that she did was, "Let me entertain you." I was supposed to do the strip. So she said, people asked her, "You asked her?" And she said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, sure." When she said to me, "Will you do the strip?" I knew darn well she wasn't going to have me up there with no clothes on. I said, "Sure." I started off with taking my necklace off, and what did I do? I threw it to the audience. Then I take off my boa. As I'm walking up and down singing this song, take off my boa. And we'll have a real good time. Then I unstrip my dress in the front, and very little I take it, and I drop it. Good time, yes, sir, and we'll have a real good time. And then I walk up and down, and I reach in the back to unzip my swimsuit. As I do that, I get behind the curtain. I get behind the curtain and I throw a black suit out. And I come out with this big thing in front of me that says, censored. And I'll tell you, over at the church when they did the show, they were throwing stuff at me up on the stage. It was fun. It was fun. I miss it. I enjoy that. I enjoy making people laugh. The pastor was there, and I thought, oh, dear God, I'm a Eucharistic minister. So when I went in on Saturday, I figured, oh, he's going to give me, oh. I walk in, and he goes like this, and he says, oh, my God, her legs, you should see her legs. Oh, the rest of her body stinks, but oh, my God, her legs. So that went all through the church. I never lived that one down. But that was the last time I was on stage. So I was in my 90s. We were hit by Sandy, a storm in October 12. The water came in from the ocean and from the bay, and it paralyzed the whole island. And luckily, I live at the north end of the island, which is higher than the south end of the island. South end of the island lost houses, property, and land. I'm only 48 inches above high sea level. I thought the place would be totally gone. The water came up to 1 inch before coming into the house. The backyard was flooded. My boat was gone. My shed was gone. Not gone, but everything in it. The garage was totaled. My car was totaled. That was all full of water. The bottom of the house had to be totally done over again, where the kitchen is. It was totally flooded. The place was totally flooded, so they had to drain it out before they could do anything with it. So they rebuilt the whole thing for me. They took it right down to the studs, and they rebuilt it right from the ground up. So my two sons did a good job. They replaced the walk because the walk going from the front of the house to the back had been washed away. They straightened out the deck. Of course, it needs new paint job, but that's okay. The deck is still standing. I lost everything that was in the garage, and unfortunately, a lot of books with those, the college graduation books of my children, so I have no record of that now. And all the baby books that were very, very dear to them, they were all gone. It was 5 days of constant putting stuff out for them to cart away. That's how much I had lost in the thing. Right now, we're still working on it. I'm still working in the house. Everything is fine. And we keep on going one day at a time. One morning, I walked alone. As I turned, after my 2 miles, to come home, I slipped on dry ice and hit my hip on the median curb. My hip was broken. I did fine. The thing healed, and I kept walking. I kept walking all those years right after that, until after Sandy. My hip began to hurt, and my knee began to hurt. Went to the doctors and found out that my knee is gone. I need a new knee. And not only is my hip gone, but I have a hole in the hip where I had broken it all those years ago. They cannot operate. Number 1, I'm too old. Number 2, I'm too thin. And number 3, the circulation under my hips, where my legs are, is very, very bad. So now I live alone. I can't do anything that I want to do, but I'm learning. If I take something down, or somebody takes something down from an upper shelf, I leave it down where I can reach it. I have a cluttered table, but I have all the things that I need right there at my fingertips when I do my daily routine. It's very hard for me to go anywhere or do anything without support. I need support, either a cane, a walker, a stander, or a wheelchair. But I manage. I manage to get to church. I manage to get to my doctors. I manage to get out and see the world. The house is not in any kind of condition that it used to be 20 years ago. But I'm comfortable in it, and if I can take care of myself, and that's the way it's going to look, then that's the way it's going to look. I do the best I can. I make my own bread, I make my own ravioli, I make my own pasta. It takes me forever. I got to do a little bit and then sit down, then I got to do a little bit and I got to sit down. But I manage one way or the other. I manage. It may not be as good, but I do it. I'm doing fine. I have friends. They come in, they check on me, they make sure I'm okay. I'm still feisty, which is bad. I really should settle down and be very calm. But anyway, I get along. That's the important thing. The children are all grown. My grandchildren all have their college education. They're all settled down. They come to see me when they can because they're all in business now. And I'm getting to be an old lady. What can I say? I can't have any more children or grandchildren. Maybe I'll be lucky. Maybe I'll have a great-grandchild before the good Lord calls me back. Who knows? Hey, there's always hope. Well, I hope they remember me as being a kind old lady. And I want my grandchildren to remember that if they want to live a long life and be happy, they have to be kind. Kind to each other, kind to strangers, and just respect. That's the most important thing. Respect will bring love, and love will bring kindness, and kindness will bring peace. And that's important. And if you do something like, something that you like, and it makes you happy, then you should do it, because being happy is important. If you're not happy, you can't live. You have to be happy, no matter what your circumstances are. You got to see the good in everything. I was happy when I danced, I did it. I was happy when I acted, I did it. I was very happy when I was a mother, I did it. I mean, I didn't let anything stop me from doing what made me happy. Sure, there were interruptions. Sure, there were things that weren't good. Sure, things went bad. But if you could see the good in everything, that's where you have to be remembered. You know, she was always happy. She was forgiving. You know, she loved life. You know, things like that. That keeps you going. They didn't sit, nothing. They came in this door, walked out the front door. And he told Chuck he was impressed with me. And he said, ask your mother if I can make a documentary of her. And I said, what am I going to say? I've had a very normal life, you know, nothing. He said, please, Mom, just... So I said, okay. So he came. I said, I don't know what you're going to make of this. It's not going to turn out. Don't worry. If it doesn't turn out, I promise I'll make a copy of whatever I have and give it to all of your children.
Aww.
I thought that was so nice.